What's up, fam? This RBG Street Scholar. Man, it's cold and witches tit out here where I am. In any case, I wanted to come on for a few minutes and talk to you about some things that are relegated to where we are in our re-Africanization process and this whole educational process. Let me say, for someone who started this project 5 years ago, I am very excited about the direction that we are moving in. However, I am cautiously optimistic with regards to where it is going to ultimately go. You see, education, proper education, is a means to an end and not an end in and of itself. And so at some level, we can't think our way into the correct kind of living. We have to live our way into the correct kind of thinking. So that if we're talking about nation building, and we're talking about revolution, and revolution meaning rapid and abrupt change, and certainly that is a long overdue for us here in the hills of North America. If we're talking about self-reliance, if we're talking about being able to defend, define, and develop in our own image and interests, if we're talking about the ability to institution build and to be able to provide food, clothing, shelter, and energy for ourselves, then certainly the prerequisite to that is education. But just because you have education does not mean that that's going to happen. You see, I know a whole lot of people that go to these colleges that every time the latest black book comes out, they want to holler about they got that book. But at the same time, they clowning in white folk clothes. So that what I want to do in the next couple of minutes is I want to give you a kind of outline. It's a very general outline. And remember, there are always exceptions to rules when you do these things. Of the breakdown of the categories of black people here in America. And I break it down into 4 different groups. And I'm going to talk most specifically about one of those groups. Most of our people, the masses of our people, are what I might refer to as habitual blacks. In other words, their habits are such that they like black music, they have black friends, they eat black food, which more people than not is slave food, but that's another discussion in and of itself. I mean, and the black music is nigga music, because they're listening to these corporate radio stations that you have these black folk that are trained and watched by white folk that are playing these payola rotations that are talking about how much dope I done sold and who wife I done fucked. But they won't say the name African out of their mouth because, like I say, the slave master is watching them. But this is a whole nother conversation. Let me get back to what I'm talking about. So, habitual black people are, for the most part, hard-working people. They want the best for their children and their family. I mean, they're 2 paychecks from being homeless. And also within that group, you have people that live lives of desperation, that they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. They don't know where they're going to stay, and they are living from pillar to post. And this is the masses of our people in 2009, the black folk. And then you have another group, which are people that are black people or white people in blackface. That is to say, they are black, they are African biogenetically, but all of their sensibilities, all of their mannerisms, all of their knowledge, all of their information and understanding is lily white. and their goal and objective consciously is to maintain and uphold the system and business of white supremacy. These are black people that defend, define, and develop in the image and interests of white people. The third category we have are what I call the eccentric or the exotic blacks. They are self-alienated also. They are, Asian by proxy. They don't want to know nothing about Africa, but they want to study Buddha and Confucius and all of these Asian things, when if they really wanted to study it and they looked at it, they would see that the origin of it was African anyway, but they don't want to know about that. So they're self-alienated too. And then the fourth group that we have are the nationalists. Now that's the group that I want to talk about, because that's supposed to be the vanguard of the movement. And we have different categories of nationalists. More so historically and during the 1960s, and that was played upon by the counterintelligence program. You have the religious nationalists, which if we look at the 1960s was most pronouncedly represented by the Nation of Islam, the religious spiritual nationalists. You have the cultural nationalists, which if we look back then were represented by Ron Karenga, or now Maulana Karenga, the US organization. And then you had the political nationalists, Black Panther Party, political or revolutionary nationalists, the Republic of New Africa, Revolutionary Action Movement, the Black Liberation Army, these kind of groups. Now, and then you had the brothers that were on the street, that were the hood gangsters, that had the image, that had the interest of the community at heart at some level, but at the same time was doing what they needed to do to survive, which more frequently than not was exploiting the community in the same breath. I'm talking about the groups like the Black Gangster Disciples and Jeff Fort and these guys, and what the counterintelligence program did is they played these groups against each other to the level where there was a shootout on San Francisco campus, and the US organization wound up shooting and killing Panthers, and people now that are a part of the Revolutionary Nationalist fold won't even purchase or touch a book that Maulana Karenga writes, because they believe that once an Asian, always an Asian. I believe the same thing, by the way. And so, growing out of that and the post-60s erosion with the advent of the infiltration in our communities of cocaine, what wound up happening is we did a type of regression that dumbed down the hip-hop generation, because the movement was taken over by the industry, and the industry is a part of the system and business of white supremacy.